What is going on, everyone? DSP here, and welcome to another edition of the Hateful Truth video game review series. Today we will be talking about the second racing game, even though I don't know if you can really call it a racing game, but the second game involving cars and driving that I actually played in 2011. And as you know, that's something different for me. Usually I've been staying away from those games, but I said, you know what? Let's branch out this year and let's really see what's out there and whether or not I like what's being offered. And this particular game, the reason I say it's not a racing game is because really it's not. At its core, it's just more about the fact that you are a person driving a car and trying to complete different objectives and do different things while driving that car. And it's a reboot. Supposedly it's a reboot of a series that previously had a lot of success on the original PlayStation and PlayStation 2. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it is Driver San Francisco, which I played on the Xbox 360. And right out of the gate, probably one of the most original games I've played, because it's not just driving and racing. A lot of these games, for example, MotorStorm Apocalypse, which I played earlier this year, obviously I'm going to draw some comparisons between the two, even though they really aren't the same kind of game. At its core, MotorStorm is just racing. Sure, there's crazy shit going on, there's, natural disasters, and there's boosting, and there's pushing other cars, and there are these other features, but you're racing and you're trying to win. That's really not what the core of Driver San Francisco is, okay? Driver San Francisco opens up with two detectives who have a really cool car, and they are driving through San Francisco and trying to stop Jericho, who is a criminal who escapes from prison. He's actually being transported in like a prison armored car, and he takes over this car and is able to escape. And so what ends up happening is that the main character, whose name is John, ends up getting hurt pretty bad in a car accident and ends up going into a coma. Now what this does, it opens up a narrative for the game where John is now in a coma-like state and he's hallucinating things going on in San Francisco. In his mind, in his own coma, he imagines that he and his partner continue the hunt for this Jericho who has escaped from jail, trying to find out what exactly his agenda is, why he's stealing certain chemicals and things throughout the city, who are the accomplices of his who are helping him do this, and what really his plan and ultimate plot is, and then trying to stop him from executing that plot. This leads to several different kinds of driving missions. Sometimes you'll end up trying to stop a certain person who is running away. Sometimes you will be trying to win a race. There are certain races in the game. Sometimes you'll be trying to carry something from point A to point B. There's different things that you can do in this game, okay? And the primary way that it's done is that you play as John, but you're not necessarily in the body of John for most of the game. It's actually, there's a technique that's called shifting, which while you're driving your car as John, at any time you can press a button and then jump into someone else in another car anywhere on the map. And this is a completely open world game in that regard. You can jump into any car. And so if your goal is to stop a guy who's on the highway, you could be driving on the highway, and if he's too far away, you can turn into a car or jump into a car on the other side of the highway, half a mile up, and then you can just control that car and ram it head on into the car you're trying to stop. Now, yeah, there's a lot of chaos and destruction in this game, but none of it's gory. There's no blood or anything like that. It's pretty much just, carnage, but it's just for fun's sake. It's not so super serious. You don't see people's arms falling off or anything like that during these car accidents. So it's not gruesome, and that's why the game got rated T for teen, I would assume. But yeah, the shifting mechanic, this shifting part of the game is pretty unique. It's not anything I think I've ever done in any game before. In any game, you're in a car, and you're in that car, and you're going to drive in that car for the whole game. In this game, you have the ability to go into any car in the game, which is pretty damn cool. Now what happens is, as the story progresses, there are chapters in the game that unlock certain side missions. And so you'll primarily, when you start the game, have something like 5 missions of different types. Some of them will, like I said, will be like a racing mission. One of them might be a story-oriented mission that involves John. Another one might be one where John jumps into a cop's body and either tries to apprehend someone or do something of a goal, a mission-oriented style, rather than racing or something like that. And as you complete these missions, they actually in turn unlock other optional missions that aren't necessary for you to beat the game. And I think that's really where a lot of the content and the meat of Driver San Francisco comes in. By the time that I had beaten the game, I was skipping most of the side missions because, as you know, I need to get through these games, and it's definitely the hardcore gaming season right now. Third quarter, fourth quarter of the year, there's so many games coming out. I have other ones to get to. I wish I did have more time to kind of sit down and relax and maybe play Driver San Francisco longer and do a lot of the side missions. But as it was, I did a couple, and just like the main missions, there's a variety in the side missions. Driving, objectives, different things that you have to do. And as you do those side missions, you unlock money, and you unlock different abilities. Oh, the other thing is stunts. I've totally forgot about that. There's stunts, meaning pull a drift in your car that's 30 meters long, or jump 40 meters in your car off of a ramp, or something like that. And as you do these, you get money, but also you unlock different upgrades for your vehicles. You can actually go to garages in the game and buy cars that you own, so you can basically pull them out of the garage at any time without having to shift and steal them, per se, from a person. But you can also upgrade your abilities, which you get during the course of the game, such as speed boost, a ram ability that really damages cars pretty badly if you're trying to stop a car. You can upgrade those abilities by doing side missions and unlocking money and unlocking these things. So there's a lot of content in Driver San Francisco. It's not just beat this story mode by doing certain kinds of missions. There's so much side content that I think really adds to the game, and potentially, from the amount of side missions that I saw there are, could probably significantly increase the length of the game. The game itself, the campaign, is around 6 hours long, which actually is pretty good for a racing game that's just not racing, it's driving. Really, primarily at its core, this is not a racing game, it's just a game where you happen to be in a car trying to complete certain objectives. Now, the story itself is pretty entertaining. There are a couple twists and things that I'm not going to spoil for you, but it is very interesting to see John in his coma imagining things happening around him, and then finally, you know, obviously at some point in the game he tries to wake up out of the coma, and I'm not going to spoil what happens, but it's pretty good, it's riveting, and the characters are interesting, they're funny, they're doing wisecracking things. The two partner detectives in the car really go together pretty well. Some of the other characters that you meet through side missions and such, and jumping and shifting from person to person, are really interesting too. You got a couple of Asian brothers who are starting to do high stakes money racing because they need the money for college, and then end up actually getting hooked into it because the gangs in the town are controlling the racing, telling them they can't quit. You've got cops who go on a crazy rampage destroying counterfeit medications, and because they do, they lose their badges, but then they decide, fuck it, we're just going to go all out and do it again. And it's really funny, some of the quirky stuff that happens in the game. I was really entertained by the characters and the writing of the game, and that's a big plus for this game. The music selection is also outstanding. There's a wide variety of real music, not just, you know, orchestral sounds or anything like that, but real songs from real musicians that are licensed to be used in the game, and you're going to hear a lot of songs that are actually familiar. There are a couple that I heard and I was like, oh, I recognize that song from other stuff that I've watched or played. So really neat the way that they combine all that. Now the city of San Francisco is represented, I think, pretty well, and I've never been to San Francisco, but from people who were watching my playthrough, they were saying, wow, Phil, I'm recognizing a lot of the landmarks from San Francisco in this game. And when you're doing this game, because it is an open world experience, it really does feel like an organic experience, like you really are driving through the city of San Francisco. And I think that the graphic engine combined with, you know, the attention to detail that they really did when they put in some of these monuments and things that are in San Francisco, it makes the game unique, and it's really interesting. Kind of similar to like Grand Theft Auto 4 when they were in Liberty City or whatever it was called in that game, but it was really New York, and you recognize a lot of the famous landmarks there. The same thing's going to happen with this game, and that's a really neat touch. So the campaign is pretty damn fun. I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised because I never played a driver game before this one, and I didn't know what to expect. I knew it wasn't just racing, but I wasn't sure what exactly the game entailed. And I think the variety in the missions, the personality of the characters, the ongoing story, the length of the campaign, just everything comes together to a really enjoyable package, and I really enjoyed this game. The other aspect that, of course, I want to talk about is the multiplayer. And the multiplayer, first of all, matchmaking worked beautifully for me. I never had a problem finding a match. And a large variety of multiplayer modes as well, beyond just your standard straight-up racing. You've got kind of a cops and robbers mode where you either play as a cop or a criminal trying to get away, and either your goal is to catch that criminal by smashing the fuck out of his car by driving into it, or if you're the criminal, to escape, to not let them hit you, to survive for a certain amount of time while hitting checkpoints throughout the city to get money. There's a capture the flag mode, which you would wonder, gee, how do you capture the flag with cars? It's pulled off really convincingly well. You know, trying to get the flag, then get that flag back to your base before having your car be destroyed. By the way, what I would like to mention is that besides the straight-up racing mode, all of these modes include that shift feature that I told you about from the campaign, where you can actually jump from your body and just possess anyone in the city and become that person in their car. And it is something so unique that I've never done anything like that in a racing game before, and I thought that that was a really neat feature to be able to do that during all these different game modes. There are free-for-all modes, such as tag, where one person is like, tag, you're it, and then they get points as long as no one else touches them, so they have to try to evade everyone while everyone else is trying to drive into them to become it. There's a mode where you have to follow behind a car, and the car's like rear tail lights create two streams of light behind it, like a trail. It's called trailblazing. You have to stay behind the car in that trail, and you get points while you're in that trail. And it's very interesting, competitive, unique. I had a lot of fun trying out all the different modes online for this game, and it comes together to be a really interesting package. You've got a very immersive 6-hour campaign that could be probably twice as long if you do all the side missions, which I skipped. So if you do all the side content, you could probably get 12 hours out of this game with a really unique story, great graphics, great controls. The only one weird thing that happened to me during playing this game is that there was this weird graphical bug, which if you haven't seen it yet, you got to check it out. In some of my later parts of the playthrough, you can see it. Whenever you would go into first-person mode inside of the car for cutscenes, it would usually show, you know, the guy's arms holding the steering wheel. Well, all of a sudden, there was a mode where the arms and the steering wheel were moving from the ceiling of the car all the way down to the floor, and then all of a sudden he'd appear back up here and go down to the floor. So he's supposed to look like he's driving, and all you can see is this in front of you, and it looks fucking hilarious. Like the guy is falling from the sky and teleporting into the car, and the steering wheel isn't even attached to the dashboard of the car. So that was pretty funny, but it didn't hinder my gameplay at all. It was just hilarious, and besides that, I didn't find any bugs or any problems with the controls or anything with this game. Really solid, entertaining campaign. Combine that with the fact that there's multiple interesting game modes for online play, and the matchmaking works really well. This game comes together to be a really interesting and unique package, and it took me by surprise. I was not expecting to play this game and have, you know, as much fun with it as I did. In fact, when I started playing it at 10 a.m., and I liked the campaign so much I couldn't put it down. I played it all day and played it nonstop until I beat it. And I said, wow, you know, this is a lot of fun. And they did a really good job, really well-polished, good job on this game. So, overall, great campaign, pretty good variety with the online. And when I think about what I'm going to score this game, it's actually, to be honest, one of my favorite games of the year. It really ended up being entertaining and fun, and something that I didn't expect was going to come out of a game where all you do is drive a car. And I think this is an example of how you can take something as simple as driving a car and do something completely different and off the wall with it than just racing, which is what 99% of the games out there are that have to do with cars. And really good, really well done. So Driver San Francisco, great campaign. The length of the campaign is excellent. The amount of side missions is excellent. Online play is good with a lot of variety in the game modes. The shift mechanic is completely unique and very entertaining. I'm going to give Driver San Francisco an 8.5. Yes, one of my highest rated games of the year. That's how much I like this game. I actually thought this game was worthy of, you know, being considered one of the best games up there that I played this year. There have been a lot of other games that just didn't live up to how good this game is, and bang for your buck, $60 for a 6-hour, you know, shortest campaign, but if you do all the side missions, probably double that, 12 hours plus all the online variety modes. This is definitely worth $60. It's a very good bang for your buck, and a lot of high replayability. So one of my favorite games of the year so far. Great job to Ubisoft, and I guess the name of the studio is what, Reflections? Yeah, Reflections, an Ubisoft studio. They did a bang-up job. Very good. Very good package. Everything about the game I really enjoy. And I don't think I have anything else to say about that. Really good game. I give it an 8.5, and I recommend it to anyone who wasn't thinking about getting this game because they weren't sure what it was going to be. Watch a couple parts of my playthrough, and I highly recommend that you. This is a game you invest your money in and get your $60 worth out of. Alright, so that's it for this edition of The Hateful Truth. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time for more gaming. Thanks.